Hey, how you doing? How was your weekend? How are you doing? What's going on, man? We're so
tired,
positive.
I'm so tired, man. I'm so tired, bro.
I am so tired. How's that for Ozzy?
I don't know what that...
it's a stupid Ozzy song.
That is a very interesting Ozzy impersonation. I felt
well,
that
it's a singing. It's a singing one.
Bubbles! Sharon! Bubbles!
Look, fucking Jeff, don't try. It's a good day to be tired.
Perhaps today is a good day to die. What was I going to say? I had a gig last week. I got offered to go and fill in for a friend of mine in a gig up in Vail in the fancy part of the mountains.
Very nice.
And it was a corporate event, So I learned, buttload of, songs I already knew, so I didn't learn shit. So I just showed up, played the gig. And
corporate pop or corporate punk or corporate country? Corporate punk would be awesome.
Corporate country.
Okay.
And there was no O in this country. I'll see myself out.
I see. That was really good.
Thank you very much. That's not my joke. I can't take credit for it. I don't know whose it is.
Shooter Jennings.
It is. Is it Shooter Jennings?
Probably.
It might be. What's the other?
David Allan Coe.
No, the fucking she's a country music fan. What's that guy's fucking name? Wheeler Walker Jr. Thank you.
Wheeler Walker
I was
Jr.
over here.
Wheeler Walker Jr. Shooter Jennings.
Junior. So I did this gig, and I get up there, and it's fun. It's a bunch of people I know, a bunch of musicians that I know that are fucking amazing musicians. So it's like, I'm like, this is going to be fucking easy peasy, right? And so we start playing, and, of course, there's dinner just got done, and so they're like, could you guys bring it down a little bit? Now, they have hired a band of a specific size because they believe the size of the band equates to more volume, to quote Nigel Tufnell. So we have a 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a 9-piece country band.
Wow.
And so it's just 8-piece country band.
I mean, even if there's one fiddle, it ain't gonna be quiet.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's
one banjo, one fiddle, ain't gonna be quiet.
Well, apparently, the time before they had hired a similar band to play in the world's largest ballroom, and told them they wanted them to keep it quiet. So they were like, they didn't bring the biggest PA. So they brought a PA that would be for the ballroom half that size. They wanted it to be quiet, so we're not going to bring the whole thing. And the entire time they were, the client was complaining that they just weren't very loud. They just didn't bring the energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they
wanted it to be a little less quiet in the back and a little more quiet in the front.
Yeah, exactly.
If you will. Welcome to 2 Shots and a Royalty Check, brought to you by Venmo, Your Money, Your Move, and Liquid Death, Murder Your Thirst. Let's get back into it.
Yeah, party in the back, business in the front. Yeah, and so we're playing, and so they're just, could you guys keep it down? Yeah. Oh, and we would like the guy who's doing our beer pong tournament to be able to use your system. He'll be announcing the beer pong tournament. Okay, cool. Is that happening on our break? No, it's happening while you're playing. Okay. And, so we're playing. I don't remember what the fuck we're playing. So it's, this... we're playing like something like Parachute by Chris Stapleton. Great fucking song, by the way.
Sure.
And we're playing, like big fucking vocals, everybody's crushing it. And you're like, and the volume is at minimum. We've got our in-ears up cranking, so we're having a good time. And you pull one ear out and you barely hear the PA on. And you hear, and that's, one more bucket left for Team Elvis over here. And just like this guy's just yelling beer pong stats. While we're playing, Mama's Broken Heart by fucking Miranda Lambert. And just, they're like, could you guys bring the music down and bring his voice up a little bit? So
would the singer pull back and stop singing lyrics when the guy...
Well, it'd be completely fucking random. So you'd be singing like, "They went down to Georgia Hills and on Team 7," was
he like off stage?
He was off. He was not on stage. He was off stage,
wow.
and just, they could have given a fuck. But we got paid well. It's just funny to me.
You guys were the radio station.
We were the radio station.
Yeah.
And they're like, look what we have done. We have corralled several hooligans to perform for our amusement.
Yes.
Now fight each other to the death. Man, corporate
God bless
gigs.
them that they pay well.
Yeah, they do pay well, but oh man, sometimes it is it's a struggle to get up in the morning. And then I had a full studio session with a punk band on Thursday, full day of they wanted to do a new single. And fortunately for me, a punk band is pretty fucking easy to. It's pretty easy to, record that, produce that.
Not a whole lot of background vocals. Not a whole lot of. You don't bring in the string quartet.
No, and I mean minimal, but cool fucking song too. They wanted to get a new track out before they were heading out on a trip, and they're going to do some more when they get back. So, but who fucking schedules a punk recording session at 8 a.m. on a Thursday morning? This asshole does.
Are they straight edge?
Well, they're slightly younger than your average punks, but like they're not grizzled old fucks like me.
Hungover.
I'm not at the they're not hungover from the Operation Ivy show the night before, or tribute, I should say. Anyway, so I'm tired.
Jesus, that sounds fun.
It was really the Operation Ivy tribute or the punk show.
All of it.
It was really fun. I had fun. At least, when we were playing the music, the music director and I kind of, he's a really fantastic guitar player, and we just devolved into Jazz Odyssey solos, like there's just zero fucks given. Alan Holdsworth, here we come, It was real. So that part was fun, but at the end of the night, you're just like 11 p.m. hit. I'm sorry, 10:58 p.m. hit. We're done. Get the fuck out of here, You stop a couple minutes early. They pack up the building, send these people on their coaches home. There were cute little burros to pet, and I got to pet the cute little mini donkeys. It was fun. Donkey. And they fed us well and they paid us well, so. It's just a question of how much
I think that there's
degradation.
some people that, they pine for those kind of gigs because of the money.
Yeah.
And look, it's a job.
Yeah.
It's just like Thursday at your accounting job that sucks.
Yeah.
Some days just suck, and they just suck, and you're doing it for a check.
Yeah.
And it's not that much different sometimes in music. And you got to find it. You got to needle. Mm-hmm. You got to find the needle, right? You got to find a way to thread the needle and be like, no, I did the little jazz freeform thing, and they didn't even know it. The other thing that I used to love about those kind of gigs, that was the only saving grace, is like, oh, you're going to play it professional. All right, we'll play it professional too. Like you said, 10:58.
Yeah,
we're wrapping this fucker up. That thing over there gets turned off at 11.
Yeah,
we don't stop at 11. Mm-hmm. It turns off at 11.
Yep,
it will be deadly silent here as we are.
So we were winding down this evening. Yeah, exactly. There was one gig I did where I was using I did a duo gig, and the last song we played was Wagon Wheel, which you do. And I had my looper pedal. And basically, before, we started the song, I removed the DI line from the mixing console, and I plugged it directly into one of the speakers.
Oh.
And we, so I had, like you've got two inputs on, sometimes you have four, however many on these, like towers or something like that I travel with. And I plugged in, I ran the whole looping thing. I did a loop of Wagon Wheel, played some crazy harmony solo, turned the input level down on the looping pedal, packed up everything else around it, had one pedal plugged in and the speaker going for the last 10 minutes of the show, and had everything in my car by the time I hit stop.
Nice.
It was, and like one nice. Speaker. I was, I like to challenge myself to invent new ways to get the fuck out of there quickly. I played until the time I was done, technically.
Yeah. There was music.
There was music.
You were paid to provide music.
And I did my due diligence. They didn't say I had to be there to do that.
Yeah. Anyway, oh my goodness.
Yeah, the corporate thing is interesting, and it does afford a certain amount of freedom like anything else, like any other day job. But you have to be, your busy season is, you play, April to October, right? So you play 6 months and then you got 6 months off. So you have to be, pretty disciplined with your finances. You have to be, you have to have your promotional materials together. You have to have, oh my God, the amount of different insurances I have to carry to do that with my own company. It's pretty nuts. And you have to do it all, but it can be done. And if you've got better promotional material than everybody else, you're going to get the gig.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if your band is good or not. It matters how good your fucking video is.
Yeah, and I think, and tell me if you disagree with this, but one of the glories of any corporate kind of hiring gig is once you nail one, you're on some magical short list about being invited back to the next one. If they do a bigger one, if they do if they open up another conference or another, sales meeting or whatever to get all their salespeople in, you're on that short list. You may not be able to do all of them, but they call you kind of every year. Like it is kind of like a really cool thing where once you get a few of them, you're sort of locked in on a bunch of them until you fuck it up or till they lose their budget. Yeah.
I've got a couple of those I've been fortunate enough to do for almost 10 years, It's like once you get the right one, it can be, it can be great. You can make 25% of your yearly budget on one gig,
Yeah.
And doesn't that sound fun, everybody?
Just smile and look pretty.
Yeah. And play friends in low places.
Music the level we want it.
Small town girl. Play small town girl. Small town girl. Anyway, I'm done yelling.
Is that the shorthand for Journey now?
That's it's funny because it started out as kind of like a musician meme, kind of like a Spinal Tap kind of thing, where somebody said, "You ruined my good time because you didn't play Small Town Girl after it was 1:45 in the morning and you wrapped up 45 minutes ago."
Yeah.
Play Small Town Girl. You mean Don't Stop Believing? No, I mean Small Town Girl. I did a gig in May with my corporate product, and we call them products. We don't call them bands.
Ooh, gross. God, there's so many musicians out there like this soulless fuck.
Soulless fuck. But I'm enjoying I'm going to take my couple of motorcycles I bought with the corporate money for a ride this afternoon, so I'm not really going to cry too much about it. He said, ironically. Anyway, we did one where
everyone should know that everybody does this.
Yes,
you all should know that there are some bands that you would not think. Green Day just played like Dubai. Okay. Yeah. There are bands that you do not think would do this.
I did one with Blake Shelton.
Comedians who get hired to do Honeywell conferences. It's called a fly-in. And
I did one where Jim Gaffigan opened for my band.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's a dirty secret. They feel the same way about it. They're like, it's a tough crowd, and you don't know whether or not you're supposed to perform or just sort of be noise.
Make the cake joke.
Are you supposed to pull them to you, or are you supposed to be this is actually the art of it, y'all. Is figuring out at the moment if you're supposed to pull the crowd into what you're doing or build that wall so that they're just having a good time over there.
Most of the time, they're going to be having a good time over there.
It is mostly that because they are meeting with each other and talking to Bob about, did you see the Tampa sales last week? It's their time to have a few scotches and let them loose. And this is not for you to win them over and get new fans.
You're not. You are the entertainment for the evening. We did one in May where the woman that planned it said, "Hey, do you think this guy could you do a band karaoke?" And I said, "For a fee." Of course I did. So she's like, "Okay, well, how much?" And I told her, and she said, "Okay, well, let's do that for the last set." And I said, "All right." And looked at the band and said, "You guys cool with that?" And they're like, "We don't give a fuck. We get paid, right?" "Yeah, dude, okay." So I set up a microphone for some turd to look at, and he could read my iPad with the teleprompter, big fucker, And this guy, one guy comes up and he's great. He is such a talented singer. He sings his ass off. Nobody gives a fuck about this guy at all. Bill in accounting has a beautiful tenor. Nobody gives a fuck. Fuck Bill. Anyway, so then Chad from receiving, he is hammered out of his gourd. He has had all the Zima. All the Zima. And he comes up, and what song does he ask for?
Small Town Girl.
Small Town Girl. Not Don't Stop Believing. He asks for Small Town Girl. And he destroys it. And I don't mean in a good way. I mean that this guy is Small Town Girl. And the entire room came to the stage and watched Chad from receiving shit the bed on my stage. And
that's like Elaine dancing. It's just as good as being good as being horrible.
Yes,
because he will be the talk of the office.
Oh God, it was bad. Eventually, we started singing with him and turning his volume knob down. So, I do a fair.
Oh, that's nice of you.
Yeah, like he was, definitely like singing harmony by that point in time, and it was the devil's note. It was not a good harmony. But you do it. Everybody got paid a little extra, and everything was fine.
Here's the other secret about any corporate gig: anything that happens like that is a win. Yeah, because it makes it memorable.
Yeah, and then they.
It doesn't really matter whether or not it gets screwed up. Like it's that way they all talk about it like it was worth the weekend. Yeah, and we do have a shitty wireless mic, and we have all the mic condoms to go on the fucker. Gross. So that you don't want to get that mouth herpes. Syphilis. Can I get some more? Can you take that up a couple octaves in the monitor? Yeah. So So that's been corporate chat with Michael and Stu. You're welcome, America. Very nice. Very nice.
And on to business.
Well, not really. We've lived long enough now. To where the conservatives are slamming Dolly fucking Parton.
Oh, no. Why?
Nothing loving about Dolly's false gospel was the headline. I looked into it a little bit further. She has become targeted. And, all right, put this into a little perspective. Anything targeted online is at least 30% bots. Possibly more. Possibly up to 60% of Russian misinformation, North Korean. Half of this shit is bot farms. You can see it if you've been online long enough. Yeah. You can see the same thing copy and pasted all over the stuff. And so, outrage sells, clicks. Yeah. But basically, it was that she's too accepting of the LGBTQ plus community. And how in the Britney Spears did we get to a point where Dolly Parton, born and raised in the deep fucking South, a young gal from Appalachia who grew up poor, pulled herself up by her high heel straps, is she's the epitome of what kind of conservative really is. You know what I mean? From that kind of community, pull yourself up, make a bunch of money, and take care of yourself physically. Don't worry, she's not au natural and she's okay. She owns that. You know, but then she moves into a place to where she's just loving and accepting of everyone. Yeah. She doesn't wear Christianity on her sleeve, but she's not, closeted about it. But she also, we could just go through the list of how many children she's helped get books. Yeah. The amount of people she has hired in her life and maintain as a salary, as a job creator.
Oh, wow.
And all of that. And yet here we are to where they are taking shots at her. And it's so funny because, listen, I know I was going to say this isn't political, but it is. This is political, and I am being political about it. Fuck you, conservatives, for taking a shot at Dolly Parton and making, when you tell all the liberals that it's about identity politics and pronouns and what tribe you associate with, that's exactly what you're doing here. This Christo-fascism bullshit that's going on in this country right now really should stop. And I blame you, Christians. I blame you people that go to church. You should be up screaming, don't look at me. Don't look at me to scream about this and stand up for a good Christian woman. But like I am. I'm gonna. But we will protect Dolly Parton at all costs, and you all can fuck yourselves.
We ride at dawn. We ride at dawn.
But it's partially music, and it's partially politics, and it just sucks that we've gotten to this point to where, like, is nothing sacred? Because one of the things that should be sacred is, I mean, after Betty White is Dolly Parton. Like, knock it off. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
There's plenty of other targets.
There's plenty of things that are worth way more outrage than Dolly.
Yes.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yes. And also, look, these people that have been with us for a long time, I used to do this thing with this futurist where we were talking about what the world is going to look like in the next 10 years. And one of the things we were engaged on was working with a pedal manufacturer, guitar pedals.
Gotcha.
And this kind of goes into the weeds a little bit, but what futurism does is basically there's a toolkit that you can use to sort of look at the real thing of what the future is going to look like. Not just guessing, but you can kind of roll through threads of how society changes and what things are doing outside of black swan events. And one of the things we looked at that I did this huge report on was the amount of famous guitarists that were going to die in the next 10 years. Ooh. And therefore, pedal manufacturers should start developing a pedal line now to be able to be prepared to pull out that pedal line when that famous guitarist dies.
Yeah.
And I was right, by the way, on like 4 of them.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and then it went into like kind of general artists, and I mean, like one I picked was Glenn Fry, and there was David Bowie. There was a few people like that I was like, well. And then when you look at you go a little bit further, and I think people should realize this. Like we're in a really weird time now, to where people are outplaying their expiration date.
Yeah.
And I know this may sound dark. I don't mean it to sound dark, but Paul McCartney and Mick Jagger and Keith Richards are not going to be with us forever. Willie Nelson, Dolly Parton, these people that have been a part of the musical legacy landscape for a very long time, are not going to be with us for 20 more years. They're just not.
Yeah.
And they're not going to. It's going to come to an end. And it's just ridiculous that we're in this time now where someone's taking a shot at Dolly fucking Parton. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's just, it's just madness to me. I mean, Dolly is 78. She's a good 78. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But she most likely, Stu, she's not going to live to 108.
No, I don't think so.
I would love it if she did, but most likely not. And it's something that people need to, I mean, Willie's 91. Willie is 91. And we can make all the memes we want about, like, we need to be concerned about the world we're leaving for Keith Richards or Willie Nelson. And that's true.
Yeah.
But, like, it is going to come to an end. And, like, you would think that at this point we just sort of, you let some of those people fall in the background of, like, sort of legendary. Just, they're not part of this anymore. Stop it. Just appreciate what they've given us for nearly 100 fucking years. I mean, that is madness.
Yeah.
And we'll see it happen over the next 5 or 10 years. There are going to be some. I'm not going to get into it now because, my Jewish mom in me is like, oh, don't speak ill if they're living.
Don't tempt fate, Michael. Don't tempt fate. Yeah.
The devil's always listening. That's not what a Jew would say, but there is no devil. Anyway, that the thing with Dolly Parton. So if you see that online, fight back a little bit. This is one where you should fight back, musicians. Don't come after our musicians.
I'm not plugged in enough to know that this is going on.
Well, like you shouldn't be.
Well, I'm just like I don't have any of that in my social feed, I made a choice to just ignore all of it. I don't give a shit what side is coming after what, it's just like, it's like,
I don't normally either. I don't get into the day-to-day, TikTok of bullshit like that. But I do get, when it touches music, it pisses me off because I do look at all of that.
Yeah.
And so it's something you should be aware of if you see it happening.
Yeah.
If you see something, say something, Stu.
Well, I'm still trying to figure out where the lizard people are under DIA.
Well, they're under DIA. I mean, you just answered your own question. They're in the
I
tunnels.
know, but I can't
tunnels
find...
go to the underground city in Kansas City. The Kansas City thing is actually, goes to that Air Force base where we had the aliens that were transferred from Alien 51. Everybody knows this, Stu. What are you talking about?
I just want to know where the elevator is. Can somebody find the elevator for me to get me down there? Because I want to go visit with the lizard people.
You can't go down there because you're not in the Illuminati. How many times do we have to go through this?
I beg to differ. I got a WhatsApp message from a Nigerian prince and the Illuminati this week saying that I was admitted.
That doesn't count. It has to be Instagram DM. Everybody knows that. Instagram DM is the only place Illuminati gets you.
Okay.
And then you got to go through the Eyes Wide Shut party if you're Hollywood liberal elite, which I've done. It's fantastic. You wear the masks. You drink some blood. It's great. It's great. Everyone should do it.
I have a series of questions.
Did you want a bigger question?
Yes.
Okay.
Give me a bigger question.
There was a report that came out.
Oh, dear.
From a Harvard research arm.
Okay.
Harvard Research Institute. Mm-hmm. That was speculating that aliens may be living among us disguised as humans.
I love it. Thank God. This is why everything's fucked up, because it's the aliens, it's not the humans, clearly.
Yeah. And that they're coming up with basically unconventional explanations for UAP. This is Harvard University's Human Flourishing program, which researches the factors that contribute to human well-being and flourishing. Isn't that fun? And flourishing.
Love it.
What a college word that is.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. And so that the authors point out that the anomalous part of UAPs is actually the A in UAPs is anomalous, not aerial. Mm-hmm. And that the change in the structure of how we're describing UFOs to UAPs, especially from a military standpoint, really has to do with what might possibly be really happening. And that the full disclosure can't really happen because we don't really have full disclosure answers. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. This is a Harvard, this is a real thing. It's basically some speculation, obviously, but it is, it got a little bit. I know you don't get that in your feeds. You can get nothing about Dolly or UAPs and aliens. Come on.
I get things about aliens, but I didn't get anything about this Harvard study. But aliens I find interesting. People attacking Dolly, I don't, because I'm just like, you fucking idiots. Don't go after our national treasures, you morons. All you're doing is alienating the people you're trying to galvanize. Fuck you.
Okay, let's tie this together.
Okay.
What if Dolly Parton is an alien?
There's no way you can play guitar with those nails and not be. She has to be able to retract them like a fucking lizard person.
Is it not obvious? Is it not obvious to everyone else? And that's why we need to protect her. Otherwise, she's going to get her people to come and fucking kill all of us and take out our race. That's bullshit, man. We have to protect Dolly Parton because she's an alien.
Boy, that rug really tied the room together, didn't it?
Yeah. Anybody know what a Dunning-Kruger is? Okay, so there's that. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. But it's so funny because if you follow any of the alien stuff, get out of aliens and UFOs, and I still want to believe all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If you go to the actual government stuff and what they're doing behind closed doors in a skiff, and the language they're using is so specific recently. It is so specific as interdimensional. And
I love this shit.
Yes, and so where it's it's probably not green men from another universe, and it's probably things blipping in and out, and we have no fucking idea how to deal with it.
Yeah.
And some of it's real, some of it's not, some of it's probably, what would the word be? Trying to fool us.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a trickster amongst us.
Baby,
There are more.
Don't treat me bad.
Oh, you
Is
went
that
the band Trickster. I think that was Trickster.
Oh,
you're gonna have to. You're in like, and there's no way we can get the rights to that.
Oh yes, there is. Actually,
yeah.
one of our favorite podcast listeners. No, that can't be Trickster. It's got to be Firehouse.
Another good choice.
One of our favorite listeners listened to Trickster. Give it to me good.
Yeah.
Give it to me good. There's their big hit.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we've aged the podcast again, there's a bunch of people are like, Trickster? Who the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Well, you guys, they were a band in 1965 who went on tour with the Beatles. Half of them would eventually play in Led Zeppelin. Okay, I want to just see if people Google that shit and then it change AI Google his stuff.
Yeah.
Trickster was in Led Zeppelin?
Yeah. Trickster was. Oh, wait a minute.
Just half of them, you guys.
Yeah, and then isn't that interesting that you
John
can
Paul,
actually
Jason Jones.
John Paul, Jason Jones, fantastic. Well done. Isn't it funny now that like just by giving this kind of information and putting it up on the internet on a website, you can fuck with machine learning. You're welcome.
Yeah. There's a certain amount of rocks you can eat per day, according to Google AI. Hey, Google is so fucked up anymore. You know how sometimes, I don't know about you, but if you're watching a movie with your significant other or your friends or whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, like is Abe Vigoda alive? Or you know, how old is that person? Or what movie did they do in 2008?
Abe Vigoda.
And so I know, again, older. That's fish. Abe Vigoda, as everyone knows, was in The Who. And Abe Vigoda was the original drummer in The Who, who left. He went on to play in Barry Manilow's band. I'm not sure if everyone knows that.
Did you know that Barry
he was a showgirl. That's
Barry
what that song
Manilow
was written about.
Had a metal band. He was in a metal cover band called Metalo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And which eventually would be taken over because of the copyright trademark lawsuit with Carmelo. And, you know, that just jumped into the NBA stuff. And the NBA won that. And Melo got his trademark. So,
yeah, sure.
So, I mean, you guys have learned so much on this podcast today.
Yeah.
Let me tell you more about some legal stuff. I was asked, we'll get into just a little bit of music stuff here. I was asked about, I mean, as if Abe Vigoda being in The Who wasn't. Anyway, I was asked about that Living Wage for Musicians Act. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
What's going on with that, Michael? What's going on with that? That's how they asked it to me with that bitchy voice too. What's going on with that, Michael?
When can I do nothing and get paid for it?
That's right,
Michael.
I want more money. I want more money for my 3 streams. So it's called the Living Wage Musicians Act. You can find it on a previous podcast. And I did a little digging with my sources to find out where the fuck that bill is. It is sitting in the House Judiciary. So it has been introduced. So it went from being sort of talked about to being officially produced and introduced. I'm not going to get into how congressional actions work, but basically you have to introduce a bill. It usually goes to markup. It goes to a bunch of different committees. Then it gets pulled back in for a House vote, but basically the Speaker of the House has to decide on that. And we have a broken Congress, and it's not a real country anymore. So it is stuck right now in the House Judiciary, which is let me just say, one of the people on the House Judiciary is Matt Gaetz. So just so you know, nothing's going to fucking happen here. It's not going anywhere, not this congressional session anyway. But so that's where it's going. It's stuck there. As they are they're still doing like public things. Yeah. Like where they're meeting, having like a public group meeting with musician unions and stuff, trying to garner support and call your congressperson. Meanwhile, this is what you need to know about it. Canada. Ooh, Canada has just introduced a 5% tax on streaming. Now, this isn't just music streaming, but it is music streaming. It also goes to Netflix and the rest of it. But it will be hitting at the end of this year, in the middle, like later this year. It is passed. Wow. It is done. It is law. And the 5% is going basically into buttressing up local CBC stuff, which is like their public broadcasting. As you know, Canada is completely socialist. if you listen to some of your conservative friends. Not true. They just do have a very strong public broadcast aspect. But 5% a tax on the overall revenue of the specific territory. So 5% on the overall revenue, and let's just put this in our terms, 5% of Spotify's revenue is going to be taxed off the top and taken over by the Canadian government to put into elsewhere. It's also supposed to help Indigenous people who are doing broadcasts. It's got a good reason behind it.
Yeah.
That it says that these streaming services have damaged these public broadcasting services, specifically Indigenous people and some other independent operators under CBC. And so this is a way to fix that.
Yeah.
This is basically analogous to what the Living Wage for Musicians Act is doing. In a different way, the money isn't going to the musicians, but it's going supposedly to people who support independent music more. But it's happening. It is really happening. And what this shows you is that there are governments and people within those governments that are fighting back. At the same time, there are 3 congresspersons, including a Republican, Marsha Blackburn, Adam Schiff, I'm trying to remember the third one, who are hinting at pulling Spotify up into Congress to explain this big brouhaha on hurting songwriters and publishers with their bundling pricing. So there's some movement on some government oversight as we are looking at a DOJ lawsuit to break up Live Nation and Ticketmaster.
Yep.
So these are all big things that are happening way above what you're paying attention to.
Yeah.
They all take forever.
Yeah.
I don't have a whole lot of. I do think Live Nation and Ticketmaster are going to be broken up.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to really help us.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a win for a loss. Like, yay, we did it. And then it's going to be so much more complicated.
Yeah.
But if you want to look into that, go look at CBC 5% tax on streaming. You will see some of the outcry from Spotify.
Yeah.
And basically Spotify hinting, well, we're just going to raise the prices.
Which they already did twice in a year.
Yeah.
So go fuck
and
yourself.
They are being called on the mat to basically by I believe somebody from Sony said that they need to start charging freemium users at least something. So there's one thing has been floated that free users for Spotify should be charged $2 a month and still have ads, by the way.
Oh. Well, that just happened with Amazon too. Amazon changed their Prime Video channel to their basic Prime Video channel has ads. Netflix has an ad based, basic level now. So it's like it's happening across the board. You get the content, but you also have to listen to this and watch some ads. There'll probably be, I can't. And also, the cost of manufacturing and creating music these days is basically nothing, according to Daniel Ek. Anyway, so fuck me.
I don't want to stand up for Daniel Ek on this, but everyone is misquoting him.
Okay, go for it.
The cost of creating and delivering content is close to zero. He didn't say that creating music is zero. And he was talking about basically the idea that the speed at which you need to deliver content to bring people into your art is much faster. And he was talking about how I'm still all of his statements I don't agree with, but boy, did the music community get that one wrong.
Yeah.
You call my music content? Somebody has spent my whole life figuring out how to make. It was you didn't fucking read it. You didn't actually read it. I could tell from everyone. They did not actually read it. They read the headline. And that's fine.
Called out.
There's just maybe 10 of us over here actually reading everything. Everyone else is reading the headline and then reading what people said about the headline and then saying something about what people said about reading the headline. And I don't want to stand up for him, but it's kind of not what he said.
I feel called out.
Also, fuck Daniel Ek. Okay. Just to make sure that we don't have any followers on Spotify because we
fair
don't.
And balanced right there.
We should lose all 3 of them, all 3 of the rest of them.
Yeah.
He's right about this part. He is right.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay to upload a video to YouTube. Why not? You don't have to pay to fucking store that much video and audio.
Because attention is the new currency, Michael.
I know, but like that doesn't pay the fucking cloud storage bill. For the people that hold your content online, you don't have to pay for that. That's ridiculous. And yet everyone's bitching about it. But I know. Look, music. I'm not saying anything about music. I'm just saying about delivering content, which is quick content. But yeah.
So when did you become a fascist?
Right? Yeah, I go from someone who supports independent music my whole life to corporate shill.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, look at him. So, yeah, look, he was against the Canada thing. He's not a socialist, a shitty socialist. Corporate shill. That's because we make so much money on this podcast. You fucking poor people. Stop listening.
Okay. Away with you, peasants.
That's right. Yeah. What are you listening on, by the way? Are you listening on like a radio speaker? Get the fuck out of here. We love all of you.
Yeah, we really loved you,
especially if you made it this far.
I was at a friend's house the other day, and she had a boombox going in her like basement, and it looked like the old timey like boombox you'd have on your the edge of your cardboard, before you started breaking to Electric Boogaloo.
How dare you?
But it also had it had Bluetooth on it, so it had a cassette player and Bluetooth, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And it was a chunk of metal. I picked it up. The handle was metal. The whole thing was fucking, it was a Sanyo special. It was substantial. I could have killed a man with it. It was robust. Anyway, just wanted to point that out.
How I could just kill a man. Yeah, I love them. I'm telling you, cassettes they're starting. I talked to some kids this weekend. They were like, I love cassettes with the J card. And I'm like, whoa, J card.
J card. There you go.
Where did you learn that?
Well, it's shaped like a J if I look at it from this side. But it's
what's funny, though, is that like to a kid, 16, 17. 16, 17 is who I was talking to.
Yeah.
They think, that it's like kind of unlocking something. I didn't think about this, but they think it's a younger format because everything is so small font. Like my dad can't read it without putting his glasses on.
True. His readers. Yeah.
True.
Yeah. True. Yes.
But because it's so small and it feels like a phone, it's about the same size as a phone when you open it. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, I started kind of seeing what they were going for here. I was like,
smelling what you're stepping in, yeah. What a horrible sounding medium, though.
Yeah, just wait until they get cars. And you put it on the dashboard of their car, and then
it melts.
Yeah, the latest thing they're listening to is
that new Taylor Swift single just fucking warped to shit. Remember when they had the little bars on the top that if they were popped out, you weren't able to record over the cassette. So we figured out how to tape over those. I have also aged out the podcast.
I just handed him a pencil. I was like, you'll figure it out soon.
Rewind this yourself.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I've seen the memes. I'm not stupid. Fair enough. All right, let's get to a little email question or topic. We have a topic that it's coming from inside the house.
Yeah.
It came from you.
It came from me. It was regarding, I was driving to the studio session last week with the punk kids, and on the way, there's billboards. There's billboards, all over the place. It's usually for some fucking jeweler or a lawyer or something like that. But this one caught my eye because it was for Yellow Wolf's new album, and it wasn't Stream the New Single here. I didn't appear to have his website up there. I sent you a photo of it.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to me because I don't see his website on there. It just says Yellow Wolf War Story new album out now, and it's literally a photo of the album cover.
Yeah.
And that's all it says. And I was like, outside of Los Angeles, I have not seen a billboard for an album in a long fucking time. How much is this happening, and how are they measuring the return on the investment here, and what the fuck? And you asked me one question, which was, is it digital or is it print?
Yeah.
Because if it's digital, you've got a rotating series of things. You're probably not paying as much. There's not some guy has to go out there in the middle of the night, climb the fucking billboard and paste it up.
Yeah. So let's get into this a little bit.
Yeah.
Is it worth it?
Let me
work it.
Get the fuck out of my head.
So this is called OOH. This is out-of-home advertising. That's what it's called.
Okay.
I have a little bit of experience with this because I did a campaign for somebody years ago when this kind of digital thing just started with billboards. And I'll tell you about that at the end here.
Okay.
Okay. So let's get into the pricing, how much it would cost. So we talked about is it a static poster? Is it digital?
Yeah.
And it's a static poster. How much would that be? Normally in most mid-sized cities, and of course the answer is so lawyered up. The answer is basically, well, it depends on where it is, how big the city is, how many cars drive by it. It also depends on how much inventory has been bought. It depends on how much inventory is open for the next few months. And by inventory, I mean, so if you have I'm John Taylor, been injured in a car accident. If those people buy like a spread of 14 billboards and they buy 6 months up front, it lowers the amount of inventory. So that means the next amount of inventory that's going to be open, whether it's 1 billboard or 6, is going to be higher. Okay, so that's the inventory idea there. But I'll give you some general pricing. For what you think of as a big billboard, which is I think is 14 by 48, something like that. It's a big fucking, the big one, the one right?
The big one.
There are different sizes, especially in rural communities. There are very much smaller ones on the side of the road that aren't up as high, all that kind of stuff. But for your general one, in a mid-sized city with general inventory on a general road, you're looking at $1,200 to $2,000 a month ish. They can go as high as $50,000. Sunset Boulevard. Probably 40 to 60,000, depending on how long you buy it out for.
Yeah.
Again, you have an inventory issue there if like the studios are buying or Netflix or whatever. And then you have add-ons for like extra shit. Like if you have something, what's called an experiential billboard, where you have something hanging off of it, a flashing light, say like a King Kong coming over the top of it. It's not just the print. So some of that can cost you extra, obviously, because of fastening and all that kind of stuff. So it is also higher depending on how many you purchase. So if Yellow Wolf purchased, let's say, I think he did it through Outdoor, but if he purchased like 5 of them, or 5 months of it, it's going to become a lot cheaper because they want to take that inventory and know that they're done with the setup. Right? The hardest part about a billboard, if you own them, is changing them out.
Yeah.
So, but you want to make sure they're still relevant. So the hardest part is like doing the print, going up, having the guys glue it up on the board or whatever they do now, and then taking it down and putting a new one up. That's the hardest part. Yeah. So it gets a lot cheaper if you buy out 4 months or 3 months. You usually have to buy out 1 month on these print ones. And okay, so $1,200. Let's just stick at about $2,000 a month. Okay, is that worth it for a musician for one billboard? And especially if it's not co-branded, like I was asking Stu, is there a Spotify logo on it? Is there an Apple logo? Because I'm trying to hint at, was it co-branded? Is there a co-buy here? Yeah. Or is it go buy my record at Barnes & Noble or whatever place sells records anymore? I don't know. This is when you would do it before. You would buy one and co-opt with Tower. With Tower Records and say available at Tower Records or available at Budget Tapes and CDs.
HMV, baby.
That's right. But this is just a straight up buy. There's a few reasons for it. One, you can buy them because you have an advertising spread on an investor. So like say you have a label deal and you get money for marketing and advertising. You got to spend that marketing and advertising over a spread, and you normally have to kind of report it out. I'm spending this much on digital. I'm spending this much on physical. And I would not be surprised if this was part of a like newspaper, magazine, also out of home advertising buy, where he had part of the budget specified for that, and it wasn't even him, it was the agency.
Yeah.
Because the agency can kind of strike deals because some of these companies kind of run in the same circle. Like Gannett, you could buy advertising for Gannett at one point that would go in the local New Times magazine. It would go into the newspaper, and then also we'll give you a few billboards.
Yeah.
For like a rough pricing. So there is that amount of it. However, is it worth it? Okay. Lots of impressions, lots of people driving by. Anyone trying to sell you a billboard will tell you, of course it's worth it. Oh my God, all those people drive by my billboard and you see it and it's so amazing. That's not why you do it as a musician. Why you do it as a musician is you take a picture of it and you put it on social media.
Yeah.
And that drives content. And then you ask your fans, hey, look for these billboards. First one to send a picture gets a signed album.
Yeah.
First one to send a picture gets a T-shirt or backstage passes or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Now, it is weird that he did one that's like the album is out. Normally, you kind of couple this with like a tour, something that makes money, you know, rather than just streaming.
Well, yeah.
So there is that. I will say for most musicians, this is not the way for you to go. He's an independent who's been on some sub-label deals. He's made quite a bit of money, some Grammy stuff. Yellow Wolf is kind of its own independent success story. But there are other ways to do it with digital flips, which there's a company called Blip Billboards. I know a few musicians who have done this. You can set your budget at like $10 a day, $30 a day. And you can do, and it basically you get about 15 seconds of it up to maybe 14 times a day. In a pretty high, like they're doing it in Texas a lot. There are some people doing it in Texas. So look at Blip Billboards. If you want to take a look, they even have like sort of a pricing calculator on how you can do it. But that's no different than buying a Facebook ad.
No.
Other than targeting.
That's
okay. But I wanted to tell you something really quick here.
Yeah.
You know how you see those people that like, oh my God, my album release is in Times Square.
Yeah, you can buy that too.
Look at me in Times Square, you guys. That's so amazing. All right. How much do you think that costs to have your album thing in Times Square?
$1,500.
$150. They now have it systemized. When I did it, it was about $250.
Yeah.
And you get like 15 seconds per hour. I think then we got 20 to 30 seconds per hour. But now they have it systemized. You can go to timessquarebillboard.com and look this up yourself. You can book it right the fuck now. You can put a picture up of just like, it has nothing to do with music. You can put a picture up of like you and your girlfriend or you and your boyfriend getting engaged or whatever. And then you know when it's happening. They'll tell you kind of when the time it's happening. So if you're visiting New York, of course, the big thing to do is to take a picture of you in front of your picture on Times Square billboard. Or on one of them, by the way. It's not the Times Square. It's around Times Square.
Yeah.
But it is not that expensive. It's a welcome to Times Square thing. And I think most people would be blown away by that. The secret got out pretty quick. When I did it, like a bunch of people had no fucking idea. They're like, oh my God, how'd you do that? That's.
Did you just tell them you were just, I'm fucking awesome. That's how I did it.
I didn't. Nobody even knew I did. I did it for an artist. So they were like, oh my God, look. And of course, the way that you do it, if you do this, okay, the way that you do it is on social media. Thank you, Times Square, for promoting my album. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Like as if someone else put it up there.
It's like, booking shows as your own manager.
Yeah. Also, again, in Times Square, this Spotify does takeovers. This happens all the time with other artists. But I think Bert Kreischer just did it. So anyway, just so you know, timessquarebillboard.com, whatever it is, you can go to that. I said it earlier. You can find it. So there you go. So the advantages of it, yes, a lot of impressions, not very good targeting. That's the cons. However, it's the ancillary shit. I'm on a billboard. Take lots of pictures of it, lots of video of it. Use it in social media in a way to drive fans.
Yep. Tag it, bag it, move on.
Tag it and use it as your social media ad.
Yep. Oh, that's a great idea. Do you remember the number of bands that would Photoshop their new album on the billboard above the Whiskey a Go-Go in L.A.?
Yes. Yeah.
We've got some friends that have done that.
Yeah.
That's the equivalent of the brick wall photo under an overpass now.
That's right, yeah. Please, and have the drummer standing sideways looking down. Yeah.
Yeah, and the singer will be directly in front making the
That's right. Look
fade.
right at the camera.
Right at the
girl.
camera. Everybody else will be looking
Hey, girl.
Hey, girl. Girl, you're my girl.
So, should you do billboards? Most of you
No.
know. But some of you,
yes, yeah.
if you got the money and you're doing a national campaign or you're doing a hugely targeted campaign in a very rural... I mean, the problem is here's the secret of it that's not great. You're looking at about $500 to $1,000 setup because you got to do digital files to do the setup. It is a weird digital file, I will tell you. Mm-hmm. They usually hire out another company so that you tell them what you want. You give them assets. They do that. They do the printing. You can maybe cut some money off of that a little bit, but it takes a while. Like you can't just go put one up tomorrow. It does take a few weeks. It's inventory, at least a few weeks to a month. So it is one of those sort of long burn campaigns that you should do. For most of you, no, but for some of you, I would say look into some. If you're not very good online, and here's another point I wanted to bring up with you. Yellow Wolf, put that dude to the side. Mm-hmm. But for some of the older bands, for some of the bands that have been around for a while that aren't really, like your fans maybe aren't as much online as other fans. Mm-hmm. And you're trying to reach those kind of people, this is not a bad idea. And I would say if you're looking at it, look more for OOH on like buses and like bus benches and those sort of things. Mm-hmm. So much cheaper, and your spread is a lot better. So if you want to get really dense in like a metro area, you can do it that way instead of one billboard on I-95, or whatever. That might cause an accident. You're going to have a lot of other billboard. People. Yeah. But it's also, you get a little bit more ancillary shit from like from the bus stuff, from like the placards they're called standalones that you kind of see like in a city, like by a trash can often. Those are those like stand-up posters. But if you are interested in this, I would say go to Blip Billboards. It is surprising. I've seen some evidence that they work, that some people have gotten. Now, again, what are you trying for? Are you trying for awareness, more fans? Can you put a QR code on it? Are you trying for a show? Are you trying to sell tickets? Mm-hmm. Are you trying to just awareness campaign? For an awareness campaign, it's good. Like if you need to drive ROI and you need to prove metrics, maybe not. Maybe not.
That was a good rant. Enjoyed that.
But if you got a few $100, drop one on Times Square and go visit New York if you're going to be there. And
say thanks, Times Square, for advertising my album.
Thank you, Times Square. Oh, my God, my album's out, you guys. Let's celebrate. By the way, if you're going to do the Times Square thing, you need at least 2 months lead time because they are pretty good on inventory.
They are very busy.
Yeah.
Very busy.
Very busy.
That was fucking great. Well done. So,
Any
shall
questions?
we move on to
class?
Many, but I don't think we have enough time for that. So let's move on to the Sing
of the Week.
And that's WEAK of the week.
What that's a week.
Yeah. Week. You want to go first or you want me to go first?
I want you to go first. You go, girl.
Ladies and gentlemen, Homelander is back, baby.
Hey!
The boys are back on Prime, and it is hideous and awful and amazing. It's a little, the first episode, pretty dark opener. They usually, for the last couple seasons, they've had kind of an absolutely egregious first episode that really lets you know what you're in for this season. And this, the last season, I believe it was season 3 in particular.
That one?
Yeah, the sneeze. Let's just call it that. Yeah, that was probably. I was like, oh my god, absolutely fucking brilliant show. Not for the children ever.
No.
But there was a lovely, delightful joke and needle drop associated with it in the premiere of the new season 4, episode 1 of Smash Mouth's "Walking on the Sun." And that was it was played very, very well. Obviously, probably written and maybe shot prior to the singer of Smash Mouth passing, would imagine.
Yeah, most likely.
But lovely homage and drop in that. That is our supervisors are Michelle Johnson and Yvette Matoyer. Again, 2 soups. 2 soups.
2 soups.
No soups for you, 2 soups for them.
R.I.P. Steve Harwell.
Thank you.
Yeah. I can't figure out whether I saw the last season of The Boys or if I need to catch up because there was that shit in between with the
Gen V
and the kids and all that.
It's real good too. You don't need it for this premiere, but it is very entertaining and it's recommended watching.
But I kind of wasn't sure. I was like, did I see last season? We were kind of going through it. I wasn't sure whether or not I've missed one. Pretty sure I haven't.
Yeah, well, you would know if you remember this.
That's a spin-off, right? That's not part of it. I mean, it's part of it, but it's not.
Yeah, it's part of the universe, and it's a little canon. Side story. Well, yeah, it is.
All right, but like I don't need that for this.
It'll help.
You can't see Return of the Jedi without Empire.
Okay, so you can watch this, and it'll make sense, but it'll help make more sense if you've seen Gen V.
Okay, all right, you've spoken. Your answer is there.
I have spoken.
Who are the music soups on that again?
Michelle Johnson and Yvette Matoyer. And pair, according to the IMDb
Matoyer.
Pro. Metoyer.
I don't know who that is.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Come on.
I like that, yeah.
All right, excellent. Love that. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to jumping into another... I love adult shit. Whenever I see TVMA,
and it has all the letters
smoking,
underneath it,
nudity, drug use, cussing. I'm like, it's me. Like it's for me. You've made it for me. Thank you.
Pretty much. Yeah, you're welcome.
I appreciate that shit. All right, mine is from the. I'm over there on Apple TV this week,
Excellent.
And it is from Drops of God.
What
a
the
new
fuck
show
is
on
that?
Apple that a lot of people haven't heard of. And it is, I can't even really explain it to you, but basically the most famous wine connoisseur in the world has died. His estranged daughter from France and his number one student from Japan are pitted in a contest by him in his will to get his fortune. Which includes the world's largest collection of the best wines in the world, like totaling like $400 million, as well as his $7.5 million house in Japan. So it goes through. It is one of those fucking Apple TV shows that is in English, French, Japanese.
Oh,
it's got maybe even some other language in it. And it is just beautifully shot, multiple locations in France and Tokyo and Italy. And like, it's one of those Apple TV shows that I just I love.
Yeah.
Closed captioning for real. Okay. You're going to have to pay attention to that.
You got to read.
Unless you know all those languages. I don't know. Maybe you do.
Which I do.
I'm not fluent, but yeah. Bon. Anyway, there is but it's one of those shows, and it's a limited series.
Okay.
But it's one of those shows that I just love because if there's no Apple TV, this fucking thing doesn't get made. Mm-hmm. The story is kind of amazing and how they go about it, the tension. Mm-hmm. There's like there's a twist to it, obviously. But it doesn't get made if there's not Apple TV. Like what this asks of you as a viewer. Mm-hmm. To like be interested in wine and know anything about it, to be interested in, France in the 80s and Tokyo in the 90s and like this crazy confluence of like there's a big like rich family that's like giving away a fortune from wine, like, and it's in multiple languages. It's crazy what it asks of you, but God, it goes through it.
Hell yeah.
So in episode 2, there is a scene where one of the older winemakers, he's definitely Gen X, in his mid-50s, late 50s, something like that.
Yeah.
He pulls up, and there's this moment that the lead character is having in the vineyards, like touching the ground and smelling the terroir, all of that kind of stuff. And you would think he's listening to some sort of classical wine sort of music. No. He is listening to a punk track called Up Yours by Christian Perret. And it's like, up yours, up yours, in the middle of provincial France.
Love it.
And it's a perfect sort of needle drop to me, because it's like you did not expect to hear punk music there.
Yeah.
But it also sets up who this guy was, who he is at his core. That comes up a little bit later. Anyway. Nice. Christian Perret, and it is called Up Yours. Music supervisors, again, Thibaut Debosine and Laurine Arnoux-Sanchez. 2 music supervisors, although one is technically the assistant. But that's who it was. It's called Drops of God on Apple TV. I don't even know if I recommend it. I just loved it. I don't know if I recommend it. It's a lot of work.
There's been a few of those lately that have been like, this is I enjoyed this, but I don't think I can in good conscience recommend it.
I had someone privately ask me about this. Like, why do you do some of these sync of the weeks on, there's some shit that you watch that you're like, I don't know if I like it or what. I'm like, my thing for me, and it's just me personally, I love to be challenged by entertainment for a lot of reasons. I don't want to just like drool and smoke dope and just watch something necessarily. Some nights.
Yeah.
Some nights. But like, I like the challenge of entertainment because it helps me as a writer, as a creative.
Yeah.
It helps me open my horizons as a maker. Creator. So that's why I will stick with something where even if I'm like, wow, this is really challenging, I don't know if I'm just like having a blast here. It's like, well, you maybe aren't supposed to.
Yeah.
Because then at the end of it, I kind of feel like fulfilled. I feel like, oh my God, that was different. Like that was like I went through something, I came through it grown.
Yeah. Well, that's fun.
So there you go.
Well, that's a very nice suggestion there for people to maybe, but not watch it.
That's right. Don't watch it. Don't watch anything Micah watches. Watch everything Stu watches. Speaking of Stu, let's wrap this sucker up. Hey, everybody. Make sure to check out StuMillerMusic.com. He has no time for you right now. But you should check out what he's doing, because in the fall, you're going to wish you would have checked him out right now and gotten a hold of him. But StuMillerMusic.com for all those Stu Miller music things. You can remember right now, think it out in your head right now. You go, oh my God, what should I have done today? You should have rated and subscribed to us and given us 5 stars over there on Apple Podcast or on YouTube. You could have hit the subscribe button. You could have downloaded the video for later watching if you had YouTube Premium. All of those things, God, they do help us, but they help you as a person. You can follow us at 2ShotsMusicPod everywhere. You follow people at 2ShotsMusicPod. That's the number 2ShotsMusicPod. And you can email us 2ShotsMusicPod@gmail.com. The same nomenclature used there. And the number 2, Music Shots Pod, 2 Shots Music Pod. Put them all together. It doesn't matter. We're going to get it. It doesn't matter. We're going to get it.
2 Music Shots Pod.
2 Shots Music Pods Music Shots 2. Anyway, we hope you write a great song. You guys look great. And until we see you next time, we love you. Goodbye.
Love you. Bye.